Hello everyone, today we're going to be going over the August 2022 Algebra 1 Regents test. This video will only cover the multiple choice section, but if you want me to go over the short answer and short response sections, then please do let me know in the comments down below. A link to this test will be available in the link to the description. Quick note that this test requires you to have a graphing calculator at hand, so I will be using my TA84 graphing calculator to solve some of these problems. So that's just something. Right, we're going to start with number 1. Number 1 says that if f of x is equal to 3x plus 4 divided by 2, then f of 8 is equal to what? Right, so it's a pretty common question. The only thing you have to remember is that f of x is the same thing as saying y, and f of 8 is the same thing as saying when x is equal to 8, right? So what is y? So f of x is the same thing as saying y. So what is pretty much what f of 8 is saying is what is the value of y when x is equal to 8, okay? So whenever you see f and then a number inside of that f, it's just saying that x is equal to that number inside the parentheses. So let's rewrite it as f of 8. So f of 8 is going to equal to 3. And remember, we're going to plug in 8 for x, so it's going to be 3 times 8 plus 4 divided by 2. The rest is just simple math. 3 times 8 is 24 plus 4 over 2. 24 plus 4 is 28 divided by 2 is equal to 14. So when x is equal to 8, or f of 8, it's going to equal to 14, which is choice number 3. Moving on to number 2. If x is not equal to 0, then the common ratio of the sequence x, 2x squared, 4x cubed, and 8x to the power of 4, 16x to the power of 5 is what? So, the common ratio, pretty much what this is in a geometric sequence or in any sequence, the common ratio is what you're altering the pattern by. So, for example, let's just say that I have I have 1, 3, 9, 27, right? And this is all in one set. The common ratio here has to be 3, right? Because for every term, I'm altering it by 3, right? The common ratio is what I'm altering each term by to get the next term. In this case, I'm altering it by multiplying it by 3, so my common ratio would be 3. This question is asking you pretty much the same thing. The common ratio is equal to every single term, right? So each term is going to be multiplied by the same common ratio. Here they're asking me, what is that number? What is that magic number that gets me from x to 2x, from 2x to 4x cubed, and from 4x cubed to 8x, and so on and so forth. Now there's a formula for this, and it's pretty complicated. And you know, I do advise that you learn it, but honestly, just looking at this, how did we get from x to 2x, right? Well, we had to multiply it by 2x. How do we get from 2x squared to 4x cubed? We multiplied by 2x, right? Because we multiplied by 2, that's how we got the 2, right? 2 times 2 is 4, that's how we got the 4. 4 times 2 is 8, that's how we got the 8. And 8 times 2 is 16, that's how we got the 16. And remember that x, every single time you multiply x by x, you add 1 to the power, right? So 2x times x, that's 2x squared. 3, you're adding 1 to the power. 4, you're adding 1 to the power. 5, you're adding 1 to the power. So the common ratio is going to be 2x because you're multiplying everything by 2x. You're altering it by 2x, right? So I was lucky. I saw that pattern, but you know, that's just one way to solve it. So moving on to 3, the expression 36x squared minus 9 is equivalent to. So they're asking you to simplify. Pretty much simplify and reduce this, or find an equation that's equivalent to this, right? Now, this is going to relate back to some of the properties that you learned this year. And I'll just write it down here. So you know that a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b, right? And this is only true when a and b are perfect squares. Now, off the bat, I noticed this because I noticed that 36x squared is a perfect squared. 36x is, of course, 6x times 6x, right? And I noticed that 9 is a perfect square because 9 is just 3 times 3, right? So always when you have this, the expression is equivalent to, always remember your like identities and your formulas. So I noticed that 36x squared is the same thing as saying 6x squared, and 9 is the same thing as saying 3. So in this case, our a is going to be 6x, and our b is going to be 3. So we plug this into our formula, or our proof right here. So we're going to have 6x plus 3 times 6x minus 3 is equal to 36x squared minus 9, right? And that's answer choice number 3. Moving on to number 4, given relation r is equal to negative 4 comma 2, so on and so forth, which of the following would make this relation a function? Okay, so what they're giving you here is a set of ordered pairs, right, or coordinates, and they're saying that what x value would make this a function, right? So what x value would give us a constant, what x value would this have to be for this to be considered an actual function, right? So this looks like you need to do a lot of math, but really you just need to memorize what a function actually is. Well, a function is an expression, is pretty much a formula where each x has one unique y, right? So for example, a function, or let's actually give an example of what isn't a function, right? So this can't be a function. -1, 3, -1, 4. This can't be a function because the -1 is equal to 3 and 4 at the same time. That's not a function because think about it. If we were trying to graph this, right? We have that -1 is equal to 3 and 4. We have 2 points at the same point. Where's our line going to go? Obviously. Also, this isn't a function because if you plug this into the slope formula, you're going to have -1 minus -1, which is 0. So your slope isn't defined. You don't have a function, right? So pretty much each x has one unique y output, right? So keeping that in mind, we're going to look here, and we're going to look at our answer choices. Can it be -4, right? If x is -4, that's not a function, right? Because look here, we already have -4 going to 2. If we have -4 going to 8, that is not each x having one unique y output, right? Let's look at -1. Well, -1 is already going to 4, so if we have -1 going to 8, once again, that's not each x having a unique y. If we look at 3, we already have 3 going to 6, so that can't be it, because then we have 3 going to 8. Each x does not have one unique y, which leaves us with 0. Now, 0 would work because there's no other instance where x is 0. That means that it has to be a function, because in this set at least, each x has a unique y output. Moving on to number 5, the point k comma -5 lies on the line whose equation is 3x plus y is equal to 7. Then the value of, if the point k comma -5 lies on the line whose equation is 3x plus y is equal to 7, then the value of k is what? Okay, so this gives you an x and a y coordinate, essentially, and it gives you a function that you could plug it into. Now, what I would do is I would, convert this into something in terms of y. So we have 3x plus y is equal to 7. I'd put this in terms of y. We have 3x minus 7 is equal to -y. -1, 3x minus 7 is equal to y. Great. So right here, pretty much they gave you a y, so we're going to plug that y value into our function. And instead of saying x, we're just going to say k, and we're just going to solve for k. So here we're going to have -1, then we're going to have 3k minus 7, is equal to negative 5. We can divide by negative 1 on both sides. We get 3k minus 7 is equal to 5. We add 7 on both sides. We get 3k is equal to 12, and then we get k is equal to 4. And the answer to number 5 is answer choice 4. If you don't want to convert it into y, all you could have done was just plug negative 5 as y and plug k as x and solve for k that way. But the takeaway is that this was our x value, and thus we had to plug this in and set k equal to x, or just plug k where x was, and we had to set this negative 5 as our y value, right? Moving on to number 6, the expression 1 over 3x times 6x squared minus 3x plus 9 is equivalent to which of the following? So this is going to be a distribution problem or simplification problem. So before I do anything, I'm going to look at my individual terms, and I'm going to see if it's really reduced. So here I have 6, here I have 3, negative 3 actually, and here I have 9. Now what I noticed is that each one of these numbers is divisible by 3, right? And since each of these numbers can be reduced by 3, I know that this equation has not been simplified yet, right? I know that I could reduce it further. So I'm going to do that right now, right? I'm going to rewrite it first to make it more clear. I'm going to get myself more space. So here I have 1 over 3x, 6x squared minus 3x plus 9. So I know that each one of these numbers I can divide by 3. So I'm going to set aside my 1/3 x, and I'm going to keep it there. I know that whatever I have factored out, I'm going to have to multiply by it, right? Because there's this mystery invisible multiplication sign there. I'm just going to factor out 3. Sorry, yeah, I'm just going to factor out 3, right? So what's 6x squared divided by 3? It's 2x squared. What's negative 3x divided by 3? It's negative x, or negative 1x. And what's 9 divided by 3? It's positive 3. It's just 3, right? So now, if I look at this, can I simplify it any further? Can I factor anything out? I cannot, right? 2, negative 1, and 3, I cannot divide these by anything and get a whole number out of them, right? Other than 1, but that doesn't help us at all, right? So now what we have is 1/3 x times 3 times 2x squared minus x plus 3, right? And if I look at here, we have a fraction, right, multiplied by a whole number, right? And what's more interesting is the fact that the denominator is the same as my numerator right here. The same thing, I'm saying 1/3 x times 3 over 1. Guess what? It cancels out. This 3 cancels out. This 3 cancels out. I'm left with x over 1 times 2x squared minus x plus 3, right? So in a sense, I already factored this out, right? 2x squared minus x plus 3. Right? And now, all that I have left to do is just expand this once again, right? So I have x, 2x squared minus x plus 3, right? I distribute my x out. I have 2x cubed minus x squared plus 3x, and I get answer choice number 3, right? So we simplified it. We reduced it, right? We took out the excess numbers, right? We simplified it to x, and then we distributed it back again. Number 7 asks, the graph tells us that the graphs below represent 4 polynomial functions. Which one of these functions has zeros of 2 and negative 3? So when a graph has zeros, all that's saying is that at that point, f of x or y is equal to 0, right? So which one of these graphs y value is equal to 0 at negative 3? Here is 1, 2, that's wrong. Here is 1, 2, 3, that's negative 3 and it's equal to 0. And if we look here, 1, 2, it's equal to 0, so the answer is 3. Number 8 asks, what is the constant term of the polynomial 4d plus 6 plus 3d squared? So pretty much the constant term is the term that does not have a variable attached to it, or in another sense, if you're looking at it as a function, it's the y-intercept, right? So if we look here, 6 is the only thing without a variable attached to it, so our constant term is 6. Why is it called a constant term? Because no matter what the value of d is, 6 is always going to equal to 6 because it's never going to be affected. If d is 0, 6 is going to equal to 6. 6 always remains the same. That's why it's called a constant term. Number 9 says that Emily was given $600 for her high school graduation. She invested it in an account that earns, and this is the important part, 2.4% interest per year. If she does not make any deposits or withdrawals, which expression can be used to determine the amount of money that will be in the account after 4 years? So this is an exponential function. The formula for this is going to be your p, a 1 plus the percent, so in this case I'm just put percent, raised to t your time, right? So p is your investment or your principal, and it's going to be 1 plus, and your percent is your interest rate. And then t is the time. So using this formula, we can solve this. We know that she invests 600, right? She was given and she invested it in an account, all of it. So we have $600 invested in an account. Then we have 1 plus, right? That earns 2.4% interest per year. So our interest is 2.4%. I'm not going to write 2.4. I'm going to convert this into a percent, and that percent is equal to 0.024, right? And since it gains, it's going to be positive. So 1 plus 0.024. And then our time, 4 years, raised to the power of 4. So which answer choice says this? It's answer choice number 3. Number 10, different ways to represent data are shown below. Which data represent a median of 2? Right? And it gives us a bunch of choices. Well, off the bat, I know that this one is true because in one of these diagrams, this bar in the middle represents the median, right? So in I forgot what these are called actually. I just took an AP exam, so I'm a bit tired, but the bar in the middle pretty much says the median. So I know off the bat 2 is going to be one of them, right? So if I look here, I could eliminate answer choice 2, right? Next, I'm going to look at answer choice 1, just because why not? So a median is the middle value. So like if you had 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, right? You order your pairs in ascending order, then you just cross them out, and you get the answer, right? So for this problem, you have 0, you have 0, you have 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, right? Let's cross it out. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. Yep, so the median for this one is also equal to 2. This one's also equal to 2, and we have to do this one last time. It's a bit tedious. So the frequency of 0, 0, right? And then we go up here. This is equal to 3, so we're going to have 3 ones, 1, 1, 1. Right here, we're going to have 5 2s, so 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Right here is 4, so we're going to have 3 4s, 3, 3, 3, 3. Right here, we're going to have 4 4s, so 4, 4, 4, 4. Right here, we're going to have 5 3, 3 5s, and then 2 6s, right? So boom, 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 boom. So immediately, like halfway through, I can tell that our median is probably going to be 3 because we've already crossed out our 2s. So that leaves us answer choice 1 because this median won't be 2. Also, when you're calculating this, this is the amount of times. This is the frequency. This represents the amount of ones in the set, right? Don't forget that. So 11 asks, which of the following would be the order of these quadratic functions, and they are arranged from the narrowest graph to the widest graph. Sorry, graph, not graph. So you should pretty much know your functions for this. I'm just going to write this formula down right here, ax squared. The bigger the a value, veil, the bigger, oh sorry, the narrower the graph. That's pretty much the rule, important rule. So if we look at here, which x value, oh, well, they're asking us for the order. So it's from narrowest graph to widest graph. So since 0.5 is the smallest, that means that 0.5 is probably going to be the last term, g of x is going to be the last term in the list. So we can cross out 1 and 2. So next we look over here, which is, actually, let me say that the absolute value of a is the bigger value. So because, like 3 technically is bigger than -5, we're looking at the absolute value. So which number is bigger, 5 or 3? 5 is bigger, so f of x is going to be the biggest function. And the answer to 11 is 4. So just remember this rule. Absolute value of, the bigger the absolute value of a is, the narrower the graph. You can also check this just by plugging into your graphing calculator, but I'd rather not. So 12 asks, at Berkeley Central High School, a survey was conducted to see if students preferred cheeseburgers, pizzas, or hot dogs for lunch. The results of the survey are shown in the table below. Based on the survey, what percentage of students preferred pizza? So, percent is part over whole times 100. So, what percent of the students? So we know that we're looking at both males and females, and which ones preferred pizza, right? So what part of them preferred pizza? So our part is going to be our pizza, or our part is going to be 44 plus 30, and our whole is going to be all of them. So 32 plus 36 plus 44 plus 30 plus 24 plus 34, right? And you go ahead, plug that into your calculator. I'm going to do that right now. 44 plus 30 over 32 plus 36 plus 44 plus 30 plus 24 plus 34. That's going to give you 37%, or 37 over 100 times 100, which is equal to 37%. So number 12 is 2. Halfway done. Moving on to number 13, which of the following could be modeled by a linear function? So we know for a linear function, we have a constant slope, and our function is going to look something like this. It's always going to be a straight line. So number 1, it says that the car depreciates by 7% annually. This is exponential. Remember that we had the number 9 was like an investment problem. Same thing. It's an exponential function because each year it's going to be 9% smaller. So for example, you're going to have like $1,000, then next year it's going to be 9,000, then the next year it's going to be 700, then next year like 600, like 200. So it's changing by like a different percent each year, right? A gym class charges a $50 initial fee, right? Then $30 monthly. This is going to be a linear function because the slope is the same. You're charging the same amount, $30 monthly, so the function is going to be a straight line upwards and the slope is going to be 30, right? The number of bacteria lab doubles weekly. Once again, that's exponential because the amount you're increasing by changes each time, and the amount of money in a bank account, this is interest, and that's exponential. So moving on to 14, it asks which function has the smallest y-intercept. So I think we talked about this before, but what is the y-intercept? It's when we guess what, guys? It's when you intercept the y-axis. An important note about that is that the y-intercept is when x is equal to 0, right? So when you intercept the y-axis, x is 0. So whenever x is 0, you get your y-intercept, right? So the way to solve, me personally, I would look at whatever function whatever graph they give me and determine it from there. So we know over here the y-intercept, the first time that it hits the y-axis is -2. So the y-intercept, -2. We're gonna go over to this table next. -2, 3, 3, 1. So, 0, 1. So just looking at this, we don't have to do any formula or anything. We know that, well, if we follow our definition that the y-intercept is when x is 0, and we look over here, it tells us that when x is 0, g of x, or y, is equal to 1. So the y-intercept is 1. We're running a bit late right now, so if you want to go ahead and plug this into your calculator, I'm going to go ahead and do that. We have x squared plus 2x minus 1, and I'm going to plug in the second one in at radical x minus 3. So if I look at my graphing calculator, the y-intercept of this is -2, I believe. And if we look here, the y-intercept is actually -3. So this has the smallest one because -3 is the smallest number. Another way you could have done this was just set x equal to 0. For this, what's 0 squared plus 0 minus 1? Y-intercept would have been -1. Did I read my graph wrong? Yeah. All right, whatever. But either way, 3 would have been the smallest number because radical 0 is 0 and 0 minus 3 is -3. Right, moving on to number 15. When solving x squared minus 10x minus 13 is equal to 0 by completing the square, which equation is a step in the process? Right, so completing the square, of popular formula is -b over a squared. Remember that. So I'm going to show you the process for solving that right now. So just remember -b over a squared. So x squared minus 10 x minus 13 is equal to 0. Right, so what's our a? Our a is 1, and what's our b? Our b is -10. So if we plug this in, negative a over b, sorry, -b over a, so that's going to be -10 over 1 squared. Wait a minute. Am I doing something wrong? I feel like I am doing something wrong. I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. Yep, alright, whatever. It's -b over a, so pretty much what we're gonna have is -10. Yeah, -10 over 1 times -1, and that's gonna equal to 100 squared. Sorry, 10 squared, which is equal to 100. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna have x squared minus 10x, right? You're gonna add 100 to this side, and you're going to put that in parentheses. Then you're going to subtract 13, and you're going to subtract 13 from the other side. Sorry for that pause in the middle. So pretty much what you're left with is x squared minus 10x plus 100 minus 13 is equal to -100. So what you would do is you add the completed square into here, and you subtract it from the other side. So now we can factor this out. So 100 is equal to which two numbers? Which two numbers multiply to 100, but factor out to but add up to -10. I'll save us some time. It's going to be this is equal to x minus 10 squared, and that's equal to 3. Right, so moving on to number 16, when 3x squared plus 7x minus 6 plus 2x cubed is written as standard form, the leading coefficient is. Right, so standard form. What's standard form? Well, standard form is when the fraction or the expression is written in ascending order of or descending order of the exponent. So 2 to the third plus sorry, x to the third plus x to the second plus x to the first, right? That's just standard form. So and the leading coefficient is the coefficient of the first term, right? So let's convert this to standard form. So 2x to the cubed plus 3x squared plus 7x minus 6, right? This is in descending order of the exponent. We have 3, 2, 1, 1, right? And of course, 3x squared is our first term because it has the highest exponent, and the coefficient of that is going to be 2, and that's the leading coefficient because it's the first coefficient of the entire expression. So 16 is 2. Moving on to 17, which of the equations have the same solution? So solution just means that we're solving for x. So I'll just solve one. I'll solve all of them right now. So we have 10 times x minus 5 is equal to negative 15. So we have 10x minus 50 is equal to negative 15. Right, we're going to add 50 on both sides. We're going to add 50 on both sides. We have 10x is equal to a negative 15 plus 50, which is equal to 35. So we know that x is equal to 3.5. We'll write that down right here. X equal to 3.5. Right. Next, moving on, right here we have 4 plus 2x minus 2 is equal to 9. Here we have 4. Distribute this. 2 times x is 2x, and then 2 times negative 2 is negative 4 is equal to 9. So here we have here on this side we have 4 and we have negative 4. Those two cancel out, so we have 2x is equal to 9. Right, and we divide by 2, we know that x is equal to 4.5. Here we have x is equal to 4.5, and right here, our last one, we have x over 3. You could just write x on the top. Right, so we have x over 3 is equal to 3 over 2. We can cross multiply, so here we have 2x is equal to 9. Divide by 2, we know that x is equal to 4.5. Right, so we know that 2 and 3 have the same solution because the x value is equal to the same thing, and that's answer choice 3. Moving on to 18. In an organism, the number of cells C of D after D days can be represented by the function C of D is equal to 120 times 2 to the power of 3D. This function can also be expressed as which of the following. Right. So the way that I thought of this was I remember my power rules. Pretty much what we have over here, we have 2 to the power of 3 to the power of D. Me personally, I would have raised 2 to the power of 3 and then raised it to the power of D, right? Because what 2 to the power of, well, I'll just go ahead and I'll write out the formula, right? So we have a to the power of b raised to the power of c. That's the same thing as saying a to the power of b times c. So if I want to simplify this part right here, I can say that's 2 to the power of 3 raised to the power of d, and that's the same thing as saying 2 times 3 times d, right? But I could simplify this by just doing 2 to the power of 3, right? 2 to the power of 3 is 8, so we're left with 8d, which is choice number 4. That's a pretty useful thing to memorize. A to the power of anything, a power raised to a power will lead, if you simplify them, you can simplify them by just multiplying 2 powers together. So number 19, in the process of solving the equation 10x squared minus 12x minus 16 is equal to 6, George wrote 2x squared minus 5x squared minus 14x is equal to 2 times 3, followed by 5x squared minus 14x is equal to 3. Which of the properties justify George's process? Well, let's see what he did, right? So he went from 10x squared to 5x squared, and we see that he took out and he divided everything by 2, right? So if you go out by 2, right, if you take 2 out from everything, which property is that? Well, is it a commutative property of addition? No. Is it the addition property of equality? No. You're taking something out. That's not adding. That's not, none of those are adding, right? And the division property of equality, well, that doesn't make sense because that you're taking something out, right? So in reality, what he's doing here is he's distributing the 2. Literally right here we have definitive proof, and evidence that he took out a 2 because it's written on the outside of the parentheses, right? So the answer to 19 is oh, sorry, my fault. So right, so he took out a 2, right? Oh wow, I just jumped ahead. Yeah. Oh, so he took out a 2. He distributed 2. And the way that he distributed it was that he kind of divided everything by 2, if you look at it here, right? Because we had 6 right here, then we turned it to 3. We had 10 right here, we turned it to 5. So not only is he distributing 2 out of the equation, right? He's also dividing it by 2. Right? So which one of these? It's A and D that oh, not A and D. I'm so sorry. It's B and D. Because he distributed it in a way that also served as division, which is answer choice number 4, right? A sequence is defined recursively by a of 1 is equal to negative 2, a of n is equal to 3, a n minus 1 plus 1. You can go ahead and work this out in your calculator just by plugging in this into the function. If you change the type of graph, it could save us some time and say that it's 1. Right, moving on to number 21. A swimmer set a world record in the 1500 meter freestyle, finishing the race in 15.42 minutes. If 1 meter is approximately 3.21 feet, 3.281 feet, which set of calculations can convert her speed into miles per hour? Okay, so really we don't have to do anything here other than make sure that the units work out. So we want to make sure that everything cancels out to miles. I'll write that neater. Miles over hour. So for this one, we see that minutes is multiplied by minutes, so those two cancel out. We see that, and that's it, right? Nothing else cancels out, right? Our meters are still left with meters because there's no meters down here, right? So what you're left is meter per mile per hour per feet, right? Here you're left with meter, mile, divided by feet squared times hour, right? That's wrong, right? If we look here, we're trying to see if anything's canceled out. We know that meter is canceled out by meter, minute is canceled out by minute, feet is canceled out by feet, right? Because those two values match, these two values match, these match, these match, these match, these match, and you're left with mile over hour. So we know that answer is 2. So the trick with these problems, they give you, right, these unit conversions, just make sure that the rates cancel. Just make sure everything cancels to the proper like unit. In this case, our unit was miles per hour. It canceled out to miles per hour. Right, so a diagram below shows the graph of h of t, which models the height in feet of a rocket t seconds after it was shot into the air. And it's asking us for the domain. So pretty much what the domain is, the domain gives us all possible x values. And if we look at here, our x values range from 0 to 4, right? So if we look here, we can eliminate 64, right? And next we look here and we're tempted to choose number 1, but don't do that, right? Because number 1 is written in parentheses and number 2 is written in brackets. What is the difference between parentheses and brackets? Parentheses mean that it does not include. So the parentheses means that whatever the parentheses is touching, it means that it does not include that value. So it's saying that the x goes from 0 to 4, but it does not include 0 and 4. And the brackets means that it does include 0 and 4. If we look right here, there's a point, right? Whenever you see like a darkened point, darkened area, that is a point, which means that much like this one is a point. So when it's 2 seconds, it's 64. So here, it's a point. Since it's a dark point, that means it is included. So you have to do the brackets. Right, 2 more questions left. So the table below shows the time and hours spent by students on electronic devices that match their test scores. The data collected model a linear regression. What is the correlation coefficient in years 100th for these data? Right, so correlation correlation coefficient. You don't need to know how to calculate this. All you have to do is use the calculator. So you go to second, you press second. Oh, sorry, no. Oops. So I'll just, oh, I don't know why it's, anyways, new program. So what you would do is you would press stats, right? You go into stats, then you'd go into edit, list, you would input all of these data points as one big list, right? So in one column you'd have 3, 1, 4, 0, whatever, all of this, right? In another column you'd have math test scores 85, 89, right? And the next, right, you do edit list, then you do second quit, you do second plus mode, right? And then you'd go back into stat, right? You'd press the left arrow button until you go into tests, and you'd scroll down to linear regression, right? And then you just copy down the r-squared value, right? So it's literally just testing you if you know how to use the calculator. If you did this properly, your r-squared value would be 0.98. Right? So number 24 says the volume of a trapezoid period can be found using the formula v equals 1/2 a b plus c times h, which of the following equations is correctly solved for b. So all you have to do is solve in terms of b, right? So really what you have is a over 2 times b plus c h. So I divide both sides by h. So here I have v over h is equal to a over 2 b plus c. Next thing I do is I multiply both sides by 2. So now I have 2v over h is equal to a b plus c, because the 2's cancel out. Next thing, all I have to do is just divide everything by a. So 2v over h divided by a is going to be the same thing as saying 2v over h times 1 over a, which is the same thing as saying 2v over h a is equal to b plus c. And we're solving for b, so we're going to subtract c from both sides. Now we have 2v over h a minus c is equal to b. That answer choice is 4. So that's all of the multiple choice problems for this test. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask them in the description of this video. If you want me to go over any specific questions or go over any future tests, please let me know down below. Have a nice day.